Hey everyone, it's Jemmy from Flintstone Media. Welcome to the third episode of the Curve the Cube podcast. Curve the Cube is a South Florida arts, media, and entertainment podcast, and encouraging you to live your life outside the cubicle, pursue your dreams and passions. On this episode, our guest is Cashmere, who is a huge figurehead of South Florida's news and media industry. He is the anchor for WPTV News Channel 5 and WFLX Fox 29, and he's been in South Florida doing the news here for nearly 14 years. You can actually find him. He oftentimes has a segment on The Now, which is actually a show put on by his co-anchor Shannon Cake on WPTV at 4 o'clock every Monday through Friday. And then he anchors WPTV's news at 5:30, and then he also anchors WFLX news at 10 o'clock. So catch him on the news. And in this podcast, he talks about what it's like to cover national news, how he got into the industry and the hard work it took. And I was really surprised to see how much hard work, speaking of, it takes just to put on the small slice of all that hard work that we actually get to see as viewers. It's really amazing, all the moving parts that go on behind the scenes. And this episode is actually a little bit of an Orphan Annie because there's no sponsor on this one. So if you you're affiliated with a small business that would like to sponsor a future episode of Curve the Cube, simply email me at mediaflintstone@gmail.com. And crap, I really need to update that. My email address. But anyways, it's mediaflintstone@gmail.com to sponsor a future episode. So you'll notice a break in the middle of this because actually it was pretty neat. He actually had to break to go do a quick live spot. So you'll hear the chimes and you can always come back on the other side. So like I said, this is Jemmy, Flintstone Media, third episode of Curve the Cube, which featured guest Cashmere. Enjoy!
Curve the Cube will now initiate.
Because what I'll do is, why don't we take this to about 4:20,
Okay.
and then at that point we'll stop, and I'll go ahead and knock out the on air. And if we need to do more time after that, I can come back.
Okay.
So, yeah, that sounds great.
What's that earpiece?
This is the IFB. This goes in. This is how the producers talk to you, and you plug it into an audio box, and it's all transmitted and it's wireless. And so we clip it to us, and that allows the producer to talk to us during the show.
Is that hard to hear someone talking to you?
Yeah. Well, they limit the time that they do. They know you're on air talking to thousands of people. So if there's something really breaking, what they'll do is, a lot of times if my co-anchor is reading, they'll tell me in my ear, and then when my read's up, they'll be telling her in her ear. So occasionally it has to happen where they do talk in your ear as you're on air.
Right.
And you just have to sort of filter it out, and you have to kind of concentrate on what you're talking about, but realize what they're saying.
Right. Take it in.
You have to filter it out, but you can't forget it. So,
I would start repeating back whatever they're saying.
And you'll find a lot of times, reporters and anchors will kind of pause a little bit, or they'll kind of fumble a little bit, and it's just because it's very hard for the trained eye and coordination to talk eloquently and then stop and think about what they're saying. So a lot of times, like I'll be reading, but I'm trying to ingest what they're saying just so I know. And most of the time, it's very small, short breaks of words. Just saying, hey, we're killing the next story. Go to the 35, or go to the next. So
it's constantly changing. You have to be on your toes.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Oh my gosh!
And really, I mean, to be honest, if you want. A real stress is really the producers, because they're under. I mean, news is timed. I mean, it's you've got about 23 minutes of a 30-minute show. You got 23 minutes of straight news. I think the rest is commercial breaks, and 4 minutes of that are about what is weather. So I mean, in a day, when you think you factored in, you've only got about probably 18 minutes or so, 15, 18 minutes of actual raw hard news that you have to fill. So they have a lot of stuff that they've got to compress into that, and every minute counts, every second counts, to be honest with you.
How much of that is pre-tape versus like the live shots? Is it always the same ratio, or is it
always? Usually, yeah. So when they fill a show, they fill that 18 minutes of a 30-minute show. It's all it's all packed in with live shots, VOs. Packages. A VO is a voiceover.
Okay.
So meaning I'll be reading over video.
Okay.
A package is an actual story where we stop talking, break, and then either I'm telling that story, it's pre-produced, or a reporter is. And if it's a reporter telling it, generally we'll toss to a reporter live.
Right.
They'll intro the piece, and then the piece will run, and then they'll tag out the piece, as we say, where you see them on the back end, and then they'll toss it back to us.
Yeah, I saw that there's a veteran story. I forget who was doing it, but last night.
Yeah.
And it got tossed, to use the term,
Right.
tossed to him, and then he did the quick little intro, and then it was the packaged piece,
Right.
and then it went back to him, and then...
Yeah, that's it. That's typical
Oh my
standard.
gosh.
Everything is how you do
So
it.
stressful.
But everything is timed, and everything is has to be choreographed down to the T. Because, if you take a story, all right, let's say if you build in 18 minutes of news, and President Obama comes on and he has an emergency, wants to declare an emergency, we got to go to him.
Of course.
So you've got to put him in that space instead of what you have. So then you're constantly deleting stories.
Right.
So, and then you've got to make up the time. So you've got to come out of President Obama and know, okay, how much time do I have left in that 18 minutes?
Oh my gosh.
And what am I going to put in here now? Because you can't just throw random stories.
Right. Here's a story about a dog that was lost.
Right. You've got to, because the whole show is built up to that point where maybe, everything's strategic in a show. So if you start out with some good hard news, generally speaking, that's going to follow President Obama. So you're going to have to go back to that. So, and then you're going to blow out everything else that was behind it. So producers have a lot on their plate, and that's God bless them. They are the sort of the heart and soul of the newscast when it comes together, because they're the ones really manning it, and they're behind the scenes.
Are they the unsung heroes?
Kind of, if you want to say that. Yeah, I mean, they really do a tremendous job, putting that show together. And, it's like a football team, though. We are all part of a team. So without one element of it, the play's not going to go off. I mean, we have so many people working behind the scenes at this shop and during the show. So what you see on TV, you just see myself and my co-anchor, but there's so many other people that are part of this process. And without those people, we're not going to be able to deliver that product.
Right.
And so you have producers that are behind the scenes. You have a director, a person who's basically hitting buttons that...
it's funny. I never even thought about that.
There's a control room back there. I can take you back there and show you. There's Chiron operators, meaning people, all the things that you see that pop up on the screen.
The graphics.
Yeah, Chiron, graphics operators. They're the ones typing on in, putting that up. And if one element of that falls apart, the play's going to go... And you're going to notice it at home.
And it's the only thing people notice.
Right. It's kind of like watching a NASCAR race. You wait for the wreck to happen. It's kind of like live TV. Sometimes, stories fall apart, and it's live TV. We're not on tape delay, so it's real time. I mean, what I'm telling you, and you see at home, there's from standard definition to high definition, there's a delay.
Okay.
But there's no actual
filter
between us, right? So that means that if a mistake is made, you're going to notice it pretty much.
What happens when there's someone that a reporter on the street is interviewing, and that you think it's all cool before that red light comes on the camera, and clearly,
that's
the person starts mouthing off or whatever.
You kind of have to do a little test beforehand and engage that person.
Yeah.
I've been involved in the worst problem where that becomes the problem with that is at parties or events or on Clematis Street.
When there's alcohol involved?
Yeah, alcohol involved. Generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, alcohol is involved.
Yeah.
So, if I'm at an event, let's say a Super Bowl party downtown, Clematis Street is packed, they put me in the middle of it, here you're going to do a live shot. I'm probably not picking out the guy that can't walk straight who's losing his mind. You filter the crowd and find a fan who's a little more sober, and that, when you just start talking with people, you can tell, oh, this is a good person. They're very dynamic and energetic. They sound good. That's your person that you find you put them on TV. Now, you can't control what people say, obviously. So if they get on TV, you'll have a little pep talk with them and say, this is live. And you think most people would know, okay, you can't curse on TV.
Right.
But people do. And if they do, the FCC finds us. It's not their fault. It's our fault. Because if there is a expletive that comes off on our air, the FCC will fine us, and it doesn't matter what circumstance. If it came across on our broadcast,
did they catch everything?
Well, there's a process. I believe somebody has to report it to them, and that's how it happens. So I'm probably not going to be if I'm in the live show. I'm not going to be calling the FCC.
Right, of course not.
But I mean, I think there's a filtering process. I think whereby there are steps you can take to recover or to penalize somebody for that.
Wow.
So I don't know the logistics of it because we try not to let that happen.
Of course.
It's happened before, though. I think probably 2 or 3 times it's happened. And again, it's all the same. It comes from the same general common theme. It's usually people who are in a crowd. And sometimes if you're interviewing a sober person, a drunk person will walk up and just spout off something. You know, so
nothing you can do about that.
You can't really do much about that. I mean, you just have to kind of be aware of your surroundings. And, you know,
is that one of those hidden skills that maybe you don't think about?
That's a lot of hidden skill. Part of that. It's part of the process is just being aware of your surroundings, especially because live TV, you know, there's no room for mistakes. It's live TV, and it's not taped. It's what you see at home is what you're getting live on in the field. It's live. It's happening right now. And so that means if things are falling apart around you, that means that can be broadcast out. That's part of the live element. And whether that's part of the story or just a component or a sidebar, a sideshow that you don't want the public to see, it's still there and it's still present. So you really have to be aware of your surroundings when you're down there. And if you sense trouble, if you sense the environment is getting toxic, if you sense this is just not a good situation, you know, that's when, in my opinion, you just dump back to the anchors and toss it back to them or tell your producer, we're having some trouble. If you're inside your story and you're about to come out live, say, give us about 5 minutes. We're going to have to float us, as they say in the industry. Float us a minute, meaning that we don't run as where we're supposed to run in our show. They break us down, and then they float us, and then they put us back in the show somewhere else.
So now that you're an anchor, are you on the beat as often?
Well, here's the thing. In television news, you generally always are a reporter first. It's kind of like the minor league baseball team. You start off the minor leagues and you work your way up. And I graduated from Alabama in '97, and I know the first thing they told me was get an internship, get inside the newsroom, and learn as much as you can. And I did, and that was one of the most valuable experiences that I ever took. I did my internship down in New Orleans at WWL-TV.
Did you really? I lived there for 4 years.
Fantastic.
I went to Tulane.
Yeah, fantastic shop, isn't it? It's a great city. I grew up in New Orleans, so it was great to have them. Grew up watching the station. Angela Hill, Garland Robinette at one time. He's still down there. He's doing radio down there now. It's a great news market.
It's an amazing
Love the city.
My gosh.
There's so much culture. There's so much history.
Totally.
So it was wonderful to call that place home and to be able to go back and to jump into a newsroom there that's a powerhouse, WWL-TV in New Orleans. If you know the area, you're from that area, you know it's a massive operation, a massive radio conglomerate. They have the radio partnership with WWL-TV as well. And so I learned so much in my 3 months. Summer of '96, I remember. It was there. I dove into that shop head first and learned so much. And that is what I tell so many people looking to come into this industry. It is a unique industry because it's a very hands-on industry. They will teach you a lot in books, but I'll be honest with you, I think probably 3 or 4 classes at Alabama that I took. I actually got a lot out of that I'm using today. Everything else is from hands-on. And so it's that internship and that first job that you get that's going to give you that direction that you need.
Where was your first job?
Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So went to Alabama for college and spent 4 years there. Graduated in '97 from the university. Roll Tide. Got to throw that in there. And then after I graduated, I went back home to work back at WWL as a desk assistant, meaning I was working on the assignment desk, covering, helping out in newsroom activities, just helping out with newsroom events, with getting information, helping reporters, research. It was kind of a desk assistant is really kind of it combines a lot of different jobs. If a reporter needs help on something, you help them. If a reporter needs to do some research for an extra topic that they're working on, you do that for them. You answer phones. You
catch
faxes.
all the great edges and put them together.
Exactly. You have a lot of things that you do, so you learn a lot in that position. So I did that for 6 months, and I told myself, getting a job in TV is very tough when you come out, and that's why getting an internship and putting your head inside of a television station somewhere is important to make a resume tape.
Is there any job at a station too small to start out with?
I don't think no. I don't think that absolutely not. I mean, the getting your head in the door is the biggest component. We have people here at Channel 5 who have started out working on cameras. We call them on the floor. Obviously vital part of the team here. No position is really better than any. It's all a team here. So everybody together comes together for that newscast. But they start out behind the camera and they work their way up to photographers, and you can even work your way up to a reporter. And it's just it's all about what you want to do. It's the onus is on you. It's hard to get a job in the industry, but it's easy if you work hard.
If you work hard.
Yeah, and that's really the ticket. That's really, if you understand that and you come in, and managers will see. We have a lot of people that come in that are new. They're associate producers here, or they're what we call content coordinators. They help edit stories and they help write stories here for us. And if you see a drive and an initiative from those people, and a will to work, and just they're coming in here and they're absorbing as much as they can, management will notice that, and all of a sudden you'll see within a couple of years they'll be bounced out to blind producers. They'll have their own show. We had a young girl. She graduated from Cincinnati. Excuse me, in Ohio. She graduated from the university in Ohio. I won't say her name, but she's absolutely wonderful. Came in here, started out one of her. I think it was her first or second job here, and she just hit the ground running and did such a good job. And she ended up getting, became sort of a line producer and was working her way into producing. She was doing a lot of her own shows, and sent some tapes out there, and lo and behold, she's at MSNBC now.
Wow.
So she's a producer up there, and it's so awesome to see her pictures in New York City and to see her succeed, and knowing where she came in here with a will to work and worked hard. And it's a prime example of, that's why I'm so confident in saying, if you work hard, getting a job will be easy for you.
Yeah. Is this what you've always wanted to do?
I have two obsessions. So I've always wanted to be a commercial airline pilot.
Oh.
I always wanted to be sort of in broadcasting. So I remember as a young kid, I was fascinated with both industries. So I would go out into a field and watch the planes come into New Orleans International Airport, and I fell in love with aviation. I don't know why I did, but I just had a love for aviation. And then as I started getting into grade school, into high school, I became more realistic about my career and my goals, if you will. And at the time, this was 93 when I graduated from high school. At the time, it was getting a job in the aviation industry was tough. I didn't have a lot of resources around me to help me go that way and go that direction. And the bigger component was, during high school, I was really starting to fall in love with communication and this idea of working as a journalist.
What sparked that?
It was in my high school. We had morning announcements. So we had this little closed circuit television station. It's called WPTV. And I know it was small, but I loved getting up there and telling stories. I loved the idea of being in the know, like knowing information and being able to have information and being able to disseminate that information to people. I mean, I guess it's kind of like the person in the class, you want to, it's not the gossip, but you want to know. You want to be in the know. And I think that's what really drove me into this, because I was always fed with this information. I loved having all this information. And so that really clearly, in high school, I started every morning, we read the announcements on air, and I literally just flipped the button, and then it went to each little classroom, and I delivered the morning news, the morning announcements. We had a few stories, and it really piqued my interest. So when I went to Alabama, I majored in broadcast journalism, and from there just took it from there one step further. And at Alabama, they really drive. It's a great school, in the top 10 in the country of journalism schools. And they really just drove home. I mean, you have to be serious that you want to do this or not. So there's a lot of sequences that you can take, whether you want to be in front of the camera, if you want to be behind the camera, if you want to be for production, newspaper, advertising, public relations. They have a great program up there. And so I picked the broadcast journalism route, which was called telecommunication and film. And it was a great 4 years, a great experience, because I learned so much at the university, and it gave me sort of an idea of all the different facets of this industry that I'm in today. And the big component, though, they gave me the platform, and I had to come out of college and take that platform and run with it.
Right.
And so when I went back home to New Orleans, I worked as a desk assistant for 6 months, and then a small television station opened up in Tuscaloosa. And so I ended up going back to Tuscaloosa and worked for a year as a one-man band reporter, as we call it.
What does that mean?
That means I shoot, write, and edit everything.
Oh.
And that was in 1997, and I'm still doing that today, because we still do a lot of one-man banding. Today, it's gotten a more proficient term. It's multimedia journalist.
Oh.
So, but it's all the same thing, and it's basically where you shoot your video, you write your stories, and you edit your video. In a lot of the industry, or in the industry, generally speaking, with a lot of resources, you don't shoot and you don't edit. You just write the story. So if you go out on a story, typically you'll see a two-man crew. You'll have a photographer and a reporter.
Right.
You'll go out and shoot a story. You come back, you gather the information, you log all your sound bites, you compile the story, write it up. Your producers will check it over and clear it for air, and then you'll track it, meaning you voice it in a voice box or you voice it in a room,
Okay.
and then you give that script to your photographer, and he will edit it with all the video that he shot. Now, as a one-man band, you do all that on your own, so it's a lot tougher. But you know, it's also you have control of your own product too.
That's true.
There's a few things that are benefits to it. You know, a lot of people don't like it, but I think when you just break it down, I mean, it's sufficient in certain aspects of the industry. I wouldn't say it's beneficial across the entire industry, but in certain aspects of the industry, it works. I don't have a problem with it personally because I do it a lot, but I know I see where there are pluses and minuses to it. And I see the minuses and I see the pluses. So there are arguments out there. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is you want to just get the best quality product you can on air. And however way you can do that, that's going to be most efficient for your operation. That's what we're all about.
So you talk a lot about how the news is a team effort. Describe the anchor position as what part of that team is the anchor?
Well, part of that team is just really driving the ship. Because when we're on air, obviously you at home, you're seeing us. So. But behind the scenes, in other words, we have a lot of people that are working to drive this newscast. So in other words, I'm steering this vessel, but there's somebody, you know, pushing the gas. There's somebody, you know, making the left-hand turn for me, and you know, I say that, you know, in a sense so people kind of get a scope of as a newscast evolves and as a newscast goes from 5 to 501 to 502 to 503. There are so many people working to drive that newscast, from a director who's actually punching buttons that bring us up on camera, that bring all the video to fruition at home. There are people, I've mentioned the producers, they're timing the show, they're making sure everything goes according to plan, reporters that are out in the field, photographers that have set up live shots that are out in the field as well. We have studio camera operators that are behind the scenes. We have floor crew members, meaning people who are on the floor who are guiding us to what camera we're going to look at. There's so much. I mean, there's a huge team. It's a big effort. And so, you know, so the anchor is just one really small part of that. I mean, yet you see it as a big part of it, but it's really a small part of it when you break it out and you see how many people are working for this. And so our job is just to deliver that information as scripted, and then if, you know, there's breaking news or something, just help guide the viewer. Take them, you know, as if, you know, I was in their living room just telling this story, as if you and I, this breaking news were happening right now, and I'm just telling you, here's what we have right now, here's what we know. That's kind of what we're taught. Just bring that information right to the viewer in the most clear form, and don't try and embellish it as much as you can. Just deliver the information as quickly as you can and get the vital points across. And that's really the driving force behind what anchors do usually.
What do you like better? Just that normal, everyday, routine news, or that breaking news?
I think a mixture of both. I mean, you gotta have your desk rattled a little bit. You know? I think it sort of gets boring, the monotony would get boring. I like to have the breaking news, and honestly, the breaking news helps us, helps our skill levels. It helps all of us, because when there's breaking news, that changes the pace, it changes the dynamic of everything, and you need that. You need that in this industry. It's kind of like a pilot who's flying a plane. They need to go through some turbulence in the air to understand what it's like and to get comfortable with it. So it's, for us, like, breaking news is part of our industry, and so I think actually I thrive off it. I like it when it happens, because it's a change from the ordinary, and it's fun and exciting. Now, it's not fun covering a story that's obviously bad, but it adds a different dynamic to a show, and so for me, you know, there's a mixture of both, but I would be bored if I didn't have that. So yeah, I love the breaking news aspect of it.
Do you think you're somewhat desensitized after all these years of from like the really sad or?
You know, it's funny you say that, because there was a point where, as a single guy, I was, you know, somewhat desensitized when, you know, you get into it and you're just, every day as a reporter, you're covering these stories, and you really have to sort of just take a step back and cover the story. But when I got married and became a parent, boy, I tell you, when I read stories about children, I think a lot differently.
Of course.
And I noticed some of my colleagues, my female anchors who are mothers, the same thing happened with them, and I noticed that, and it was an interesting change, because I noticed it in myself, when I'm reading these stories, I'm much more emotional. I'm emotionally wrapped around that story more so than I was before in my life, because my life's a lot different now. And
that's a different heartstring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it hits home a lot when we're talking about any stories with children, or if there's a medical story that involves a child or something. I'm always, we had a story the other day on these, the pods, the detergent pods that kids.
I saw it. Yeah.
I would have read that story 10 years ago and been like, okay, next story. Not that in any way.
Right. It just wouldn't have hit you the same.
Yesterday when I read it on air, that story hit home, because I look at it and go, well, I need to make sure our detergent pods, which they are on a high shelf.
Right.
They are, and they're above where my kids can't get to them. But that's a story, and that's where I intake it a lot differently than I would have.
Well, it's funny you bring that specific story up, because when I was watching it myself, I was like, my reaction was, well, thank God mine are locked away in a cabinet. But then you got into the detail of that specific mom, and I think it was her mother gave it to her baby thinking it was like a chew.
And that's
and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. That's horrifying.
It's awful, and that's why the first thing, what you just said, and your mom, and the same thing, where are my detergent pods? That's the first thing that popped in, and I was thinking that as I was reading the story, like, where are those pods at home? And I knew they were safe in a way, but it makes me think, and so those stories generally make me think a lot.
Do you bring it home?
Sometimes I've cut out scripts and I've brought scripts home. In other words, where I'm if there's a story that is, it's a tough story to read or something like that, I'll go home and talk to my wife about it and say, it was a tough story. This was something that, it hits home more, I think, when you read these stories that are a lot more emotional.
Right.
And I don't think I'm alone in this. I think if you have any anchor out there that has a correlation to a story or a direct impact from a story or is affected by a story in some way, we're human just like you are. We have feelings, and there's no way, I don't think, you can have an anchor who's not going to be impacted by it. Or any story. I mean, certainly, and even 10 years ago, I don't want to say I was completely desensitized, because we were covering awful stories, and you do feel for those people. You have sensitivity to it, despite the fact that you have to break away and cover that story. But as I'm older, I'm more mature, I'm 38 now, with a family, a father too, I look at stories a lot differently now than I would 10 years ago, and it's just because of where I am in my life.
Of course.
But I'm no different than any other parent out there or any other anchor out there who has gone through the same role as I have, or who has the same role.
So what's it like covering like a really, really huge event that just has the whole country's eyes on it? Like, I know you covered the Gulf oil spill.
The Gulf oil spill. It's exciting. It's kind of like the Super Bowl for us. I like to say. A lot of times, what we look at, hurricanes that have come through here. Thank goodness we haven't had one in almost a decade. But we had a string of years here. All those, your listeners here who will know very well what I'm talking about. Francis, Gene. Charlie brushed us a bit on the West Coast, and those big stories. Those hurricanes are huge. Those are big stories. The Gulf oil spill, I can remember. Last week, I covered the governor's race here. I was in Tampa with Chris. And all eyes were on the country that night watching Florida. Certainly, it's a battleground state.
I may or may not have taken a picture of my television.
That's right. I thought I saw that on news. That's right. Those stories, though, are great because they put us in the environment, and I always say to people, it allows us to go to the front line where kind of the public can't go. We get to go. And when you're immersed right into that story, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a governor's race, or a natural disaster that you're covering, like the Gulf oil spill, and you're on the shores of Panama City watching these little tar balls roll ashore. I mean, you're on the front line of it, and you're covering it, and you're there witnessing it firsthand. And to be able to witness it firsthand and turn around and tell your viewers about it and your account about it, it goes full circle. It goes back to my high school days when I was getting all that information and being able to try and disseminate.
You're on that inside track.
And so it's I think for me it's an exciting time, really. Those times, and it's so important for every reporter or anchor or journalist to cover those events, because I think you step outside of your norm. It's kind of like breaking news. It's not the norm, and you get to see a major story, and you get to see this huge story that the whole country is wrapped around. through your eyes,
Yeah.
and you get to look at it through your eyes, and that's what's fascinating about it.
Let me ask you this question, and it just popped in my head. It's kind of weird, but I can imagine covering the Gulf oil spill. Did it have a smell?
It didn't. No. Well, I should say the tar balls that came ashore. I think the problem with the Gulf oil spill. Let me take this back. Fear was the biggest thing.
Of course.
I think when the spill happened, I don't really think we knew exactly the impact of what had happened. We knew the impact, but we didn't know the long-term effect of what was happening. So I think people thought, okay, Panama City, it's X amount of miles from the site, the disaster site.
Yeah.
They should be getting oil on their beach. That's tourism that's going to be impacted. People aren't going to go. And so there's a huge fear there. And of course, you've got a string of live trucks set up. And that's certainly not helping people settle their fears before they're covering it.
Right.
So I think the biggest factor was the fear, the unknown, what was going to happen, because nobody really knew what was going to happen. Scientists had never covered something like this. We had never seen something like this happen before, so we didn't know if just tar was just going to start rolling
Right,
up.
that was a big story it was unprecedented.
Yeah, and so that's the thing where, so we ended up having these little tar balls that rolled ashore, and scientists would flock to them, would collect them, and the data was covered, but we didn't know, okay, is there a mass oil, slick that's coming in? We didn't know what was going to happen, and generally speaking, after a number of days there, we realized that the impact, fortunately for the beaches, I think was more of a fear-based and not, we weren't going to see that physical impact. It was more of an emotional impact.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the story eventually became. It was more of an emotional impact.
Yeah.
So it didn't smell. It didn't have any of the physical dynamics that we thought we were going to get, but it had a tremendous emotional impact. I mean, you had people in stores in Panama City and Pensacola that were closing up shop and being like, this is my livelihood here, and nobody's coming. And that was the biggest thing, is tourism was huge up there. And people across the country were looking at it thinking that this beach was going to get wiped out by tar and oil. And I think that was the fear of everybody. And it took time, helped clear the air there, so to speak. And I think that was the emotional impact of that, which fortunately, thank goodness, didn't. I mean, the fear caused some tourism decline up there, but
for a little while.
For a little while. But what could have happened? I mean, and I'm not going to
say
they
had a great campaign to bring it back.
They did.
All the different areas came together in one campaign. It was really good.
Did. Yeah. And I thought that was remarkable and great. Money well spent, and I think that helped. That helped clear the air a little bit. And not to say that there wasn't any physical damage, because I know there were some certain slicks that kind of came ashore, came near, but not to the degree that we just didn't understand or to what we thought.
Right. Are you as extroverted off mic as you are on mic?
Yeah, I try to be. I try to be. I love, in this industry, you have to be able to just talk and deliver and talk to people, and I love talking to people. I mean, I love meeting new people.
Yeah.
It was great meeting you, and I mean, we kind of met online. So
and
that's it's a unique component that we, that's a unique element that we can talk about, because I've met so many. Our viewers online and on social media.
Yeah.
And, back in the day, you would think, well, that's weird. No, it's not. It's great.
Yeah.
Instead, I get to meet so many people through Facebook.
A totally different level of connection.
Yeah, it is a completely different level of connection. What social media has done for our industry has been huge. Not just for us to disseminate information, but to meet more people. I mean, every single person who is a friend of mine on Facebook, I hope they're a viewer of ours too.
Yeah.
So, I treat them as a viewer, and that's where our management wants us to treat them, and that's why we use social media. We use our Facebook pages and our Twitter pages so much for our professional life and for our personal life.
Right. So clearly you have a lot of passion for what you do. Practically since birth, it sounds like you were born to do this. Is it weird at all that what you do for a living comes with this mantle of celebrity?
Well, I don't look at it like celebrity.
You're a celebrity.
I look at it like people say local celebrity. I look at it as like I'm familiar. I'm a familiar face.
Yeah.
And I've been here 14 years, and so I understand the dynamic of the industry and where I am, and the fact that I'm very blessed and fortunate to be where I am, to have had 14 years here.
Right.
A lot of people in my industry don't have 14 years in one market, or don't. We sign 2-3 year contracts, and you don't know where. I've chosen to stay here because I've had a great time here. I've had a great professional career here.
Yeah.
My management here at Channel 5 and Fox 29, they've been great to me. I've had a great quality of life here, but I've also met some great people here. And I mean, you know, your quality of life is huge. Part of that
You met
is
your wife here, right?
I met my wife here.
Yeah.
My family is here now. So, I mean, I've invested a lot in this little community here. So, I mean, for me, you know, I treat it's like a big family here.
Yeah.
So I, you know, as a familiar face, I think what's more familiar, I get more people ask me, is Cashmere your real name? And I'm like, yes, it is.
You didn't even think to ask me that. That's so funny.
It's on my birth certificate. I tell
That's
everybody
so
that.
funny. I have a good friend named Scotty Fusion.
Oh, that's
And I just
cool.
asked
Yeah.
him the other day, I'm like, is Fusion really your
Right.
Yep.
No, they asked me, and it's you know, when Shannon Cake and I first started anchoring together, like Cake and Cashmere, that's made up. That's not
so
real.
funny.
That's
You know,
not
I've heard
real.
your names for so many
No, it's
years,
real.
it doesn't even,
I
but
know.
now, yeah,
It's
you're
real.
right. You're
So
right.
if I'm somewhere, you know, where it requires photo ID or something, I show them like, Cashmere, you're the news guy, right? It's kind of like, I get the name, I get more name recognition, I think,
Gotcha.
than facial recognition.
That's funny.
But it's fine. But, you know, it's all about just being familiar. And it's great. I've gotten so many story ideas. So, like, when I talk to someone, if I'm in the grocery store, somebody says, oh, we watch you every day. Listen, I'm very thankful for that. First of all, because we rely, it's kind of like, you know, when you get on a plane, your pilot says, you know, we know you have a choice when you fly. We thank you for flying with us.
Yeah.
You have a choice when you watch TV
That's
news.
true.
So
That's
every
true.
person that says thank you to us for watching us, or I watch you every night, I owe them a thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, every single person, because
get that.
they have a choice where they can go at night to
Yeah.
look at TV, and if they choose to watch us, I can't tell them to, and I can't stop them from doing that.
Right.
So I appreciate that, and that's why I think more so than anything, when people say, "Oh," when they recognize me, it's more of this person watches, and I'm thankful that they watch, and I appreciate the fact that they watch.
Just doing a quick time check. Do you want to,
You
pause
can fire
now.
out one more question.
Okay,
Couple more.
well, I was going off this whole celebrity thing because, you know, I first met you in person, obviously, at Feast of Little Italy the other day, and you're doing the cheese building competition,
Right.
and that's pretty cool little side gig, be able to do stuff like that and benefit charities and stuff. Like, what's that like to know that
It's
you
great.
can
And it's
push
important.
that forward? Yeah.
It's so important. And what I told myself, I became an anchor here in '06, a weekend morning anchor. And when I started anchoring, obviously when you spend time on the desk, you really become in the public eye a lot more because more people are seeing you. You have more time on air, as you will. And I told myself, you know, I'm going to connect with my community a lot more so than I think most would, but I want to because I think it's such an extension of our job.
Yeah.
And so I started doing celebrity bartending gigs, which was awesome.
Oh, were you good?
No, but I had so much fun. But I mean, I was pouring beer and pouring wine, and I mean, I'm not making like Manhattans.
Right.
I would turn to the professional mixologist. They'd be mixing that up. And I might serve it to the person. But those little events eventually morphed into charities. And what happened is I've really just, I became friends with a lot of people who are involved with certain charities. For instance, the Humane Society of the Treasure Coast. I had a number of friends. I started emceeing their event 10 years ago.
Wow.
And so that was one charity that I started doing, and I started visiting the shelter up there. I started looking at the operations center that they had, and 3 years ago we adopted our Big Great Dane from them. So it was great
Nice.
to bring everything full circle.
Of course.
And Palm Beach County is another one that I've invested a lot of time to. I'm just beginning. I did some work emceeing with them before, but now I'm on part of their board now. I'm working with them. They're a great organization. Forgotten Soldiers Outreach, they help soldiers overseas, really send care packages to troops overseas. I'm involved with that. Those are just a few of the ones that I'm involved with. There's certainly more. And I think it's just emceeing events, getting out. You see a lot of my colleagues who are out at the Heart Walk, Autism Speaks, that's a big one for us. I think anytime we can
breast cancer
breast
events,
cancer
all of that
awareness,
stuff, yeah.
all of it, whether it's a cheese building contest or for charity, no matter what it is, to be able to go out into the public and talk to people face to face and communicate with them and show them, your love for your community and your love for that charity that you're with, I think it's great. And it's great for the charity because it helps benefit them as well.
Of course, gives them that extra.
I think it's an extension of, it's part of our job responsibility. And I tell a lot of anchors that, I think we as an anchor are leaders, and we have to be leaders not just in our newsroom, but in our community as well. And I think the one way to show that is to become part of these organizations and to help people to if you have a passion or a cause, jump in and go after it. You know, we have a lot of my colleagues that love, you know, dogs and cats. So there's so many wonderful organizations that help animals.
You just have to follow your own
and
passion.
follow your path, your passion. Yeah, and I think it's great. And that's not something that our bosses are telling us we have to do. And quite frankly, we don't have to do that if we don't want to. But I choose to do probably 10 MC events a year. I choose to be involved and give money to a number of charities a year because I feel like that's important for me and our job and our industry. And ultimately, it helps us because when I'm at a charity event or I'm emceeing an event, like Palm Beach County, they have a really big Jules and Jeans bash coming up in next Saturday. One, the events are fun. You have a blast. And two, you know,
even when there's a lot of rain like this Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you get to talk to so many people, and all those people inside that room are viewers. Yeah. So, you know, if I can go in there and make friends with viewers, hey, I might grab a few new viewers, and that's not going to hurt us. You know, I mean, we're recruiting as we speak. You know, so it's all part of the process of getting out in your community, and even if people don't watch us, you know what, just to be able to meet people in our community, that's fine. That's good. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, even, you know, blessing me with your presence on this podcast, I feel like
that's no problem. I mean, I'm happy to help. I mean, it was wonderful. You showed a lot of initiative online.
Just a little bit.
And I was like, wow, she's dynamic. This lady, she's wonderful. So it was great, and I'm happy to help. And hopefully, if somebody can take something out of this and learn from it, and it'll help them in their career path in this industry, that's great. Or if somebody listens to this and I see them at a future event, hopefully they'll come up and say, hey, I heard the podcast, and you know, there was something in there that helped them out. You know,
awesome.
That's what it's all about.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I know. I want to make sure I don't keep you.
Okay. I'm gonna go to break. I'm gonna do the quick on-air bit, and then I'll be right back.
Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're in good shape here?
Oh, we're in great shape. Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Thank you.
How's it going? Everything's good?
It's going so well. I just listened back to the first few minutes, and it's like, it's perfect.
Good.
It's going really well. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure.
Your energy's awesome.
My pleasure.
So I just want to talk about the rest of the podcast is going to be more random stuff.
Okay. Fire away.
So you were saying that two of your passions growing up were aviation and news. Right. Well, one of my passions is weird zombie movies or horror movies about destruction.
Right.
Okay, I'm going somewhere with this, I swear.
Okay.
So last night I caught Apocalypse LA, which is a movie that has both zombies and massive destruction, and I'm like, how could I have never seen this before? But as I was watching it, I had this podcast on the brain, and you know, they cut to shots of the anchors, you know, talking to the public about what's going on, and one anchor said something to the effect of, stay indoors and stay tuned while we figure out what's going on. And I couldn't help but think, a news anchor would never say that.
Probably not. Especially if the apocalypse, when you really think about an apocalypse, I don't think you're going to have cable TV.
Right.
So you're probably not even going to be seeing us.
Right. But I couldn't help but wonder, like, is there ever a time when you're watching a movie or something and there's someone on the news and you're like, you would never say that?
Occasionally. I mean, but most of the time, I mean, the times that I've seen that, well, it's all marketed. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's made for TV, made for the movies, so to speak. But you know, I think it's more common sense. You know, you just look and you think common sense. Okay, like no, that's not really what we'd say. So it's more just common sense based. You see it here and there in the movies, but I find when I see it, it's more made for that movie, so it's more scripted for that movie to sound that way.
Right. Well, I'm assuming that you've seen the movie Anchorman.
Yes, love
What do you think? Yeah.
How do you not like it? Whether you're an anchor, whether you're in the industry, whether you're not, it's a fantastic movie. Yeah,
that's so cool. I'm glad you're a fan.
Yeah, huge fan. Actually, my wife is a bigger fan than I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like...
Does she ever look at you like,
I don't know if I've ever been called Ron Burgundy before, but who knows?
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was fun. We trade off lines. She knows, she can quote the movie better than I can. And
wow.
It's fun, yeah. We have a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, speaking of having fun, how much fun is your job?
Well, I love it. You know what? I mean, gosh, what job that you have in life, if you don't have fun at your job and you're not excited and passionate about it, that's not a job, and you're going to be so unhappy in life. So be happy in life, enjoy your job, enjoy the passion. I love it. I mean, I get to come to work every day, and as I mentioned before, I get to go where the public can't go. I mean, think about this. I've been in this industry for 17 years. I've flown with the Blue Angels. Okay?
Wow. No, you haven't.
I've covered some of the biggest stories.
Did they flip you up?
I vomited and I passed out. Okay, I'll tell you. And the pilot told me before we went up, he's like, I'm going to make you black out and I'm going to make you get sick.
Oh, and okay, promise delivered.
Right, this was April of 2000. I went up in Blue Angel 7 prior to an air show in South Carolina. It was a 43-minute flight and the best. Of course, me being an aviation buff, I loved it.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But it was incredible. I mean, just going Mach 1. He took me off the coast of South Carolina there. We went through all the maneuvers.
Were you scared at all or just enjoying the ride?
Not really. No, I wasn't scared. I think I was trying to monitor my physical condition more than anything, because you're actually, when you're inside a fighter jet, I mean, most people wouldn't know what that's like, but you're basically, the G-forces against you. It's kind of like working out for 43 minutes.
No kidding.
So you're your body's just, really getting run down.
Yeah.
So when you're going into several Gs, like 4G turns and 5G turns, that's 5 times your body weight. So you're going to black out, and you're going to feel this pressure on your body and your head. So that takes a toll about midway through the flight. So when you're doing Mach 1, it doesn't really, I mean, I don't want to sound dull about it, but it didn't feel like you're going so fast.
Right.
I mean, your face is sort of compressed, but it's like, you're just going so fast, and it's like, I didn't feel my stomach losing like a roller coaster. It wasn't like that feeling. It was a much different feeling, because you're sort of strapped in, and you're in this compartment, this little bubble, and you're sitting on top of clouds.
Is it completely disorienting?
When you're doing inversions, and when you're flipping, and when you're barrel rolling, they pop back into formation, and I'm like, where are we? And what just happened? I have no idea. So, and it was an experience of a lifetime, to say the least. My colleague Steve Weagle just went out this past year with him.
Oh, did he?
He came in town. So we traded a lot of stories about my flight in 2000 and his flight today. A lot's changed, but it's great. So getting back to the point, though, that's one aspect of this job that I got to do, because I'm in this industry. I've covered so many events that the world is watching, what we talked about, the hurricanes and everything, and to be able to stand in a hurricane in nearly 100-mile-an-hour winds and see a canoe tumbling down the street behind you. I mean, it's a natural disaster, but you're right in the thick of it, in the middle of it, and you're trying to help people. You're telling everyone else to leave, and here you are. And people, but you're getting vital information back to the studio, back to the people, so they know, hey, when this back edge or this wall cloud comes and hits your home, here's what you can expect. So, it's an element of forecasting there too, on-site forecasting. I mean, those are the times when I really look back at my industry and say, wow, Jimmy Fallon was best. I got to interview Jimmy Fallon.
No, you didn't.
He was my top interview.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And he was the nicest guy ever. He came to the Improv here in West Palm Beach several years ago. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was able to get about 5-10 minutes with him. And he was the nicest guy.
He seems like he's super sweet.
And it's so great to see him where he is today. Now he has the Tonight Show, and it's awesome to watch him every night, up there. And going, wow, I met him. He's a great guy. He called me by my name, Jay, and he was very personable. And but those are the types of things, those stories. And don't get me wrong, the stories about the people. I did a story yesterday about a war veteran from Desert Storm. Those are the same types of stories that I'll always remember too. So it really, when you compress all that together, that's what makes my job exciting, and that's why it's fun to come in, because you never know what you're going to get. When I came in today, I don't know what I'm going to get. I could step on set and news could break anywhere in the country or here locally, and guess what? We're going to be right on top of it.
Right.
You got to be prepared for that dynamic moment right away, and it adds an element of excitement to every day.
That's so awesome. So you talked about the Blue Angels, you talked about Jimmy Fallon. Are those like the two? Is there anything that tops that you've done? Are those
as
kind
far
of
as
like
people, people? Here's the thing with people. I love people's stories. I love telling stories about people. I think it's what has helped drive me in reporting. We all have to become. You have to crawl before you can walk. You got to be a reporter before you anchor.
Yeah.
So reporting is always in your roots. You always are going to report. And I think for me, you got to find that niche of reporting. Do you like politics? Do you like crime? Do you like courts? Do you like what type of reporting do you like? Can you find that avenue? For me, it's telling those stories. Steve Hartman works for CBS News. Amazing storyteller, and I always watch his pieces, and I try and learn from him because he just goes around the country and talks to people, and he does these fantastic features, but he brings so much emotion out of them. And he'll take a story that would seem very emotional, and there's a wow factor there, and he will turn the notch up on it, and he will leave you with just something to grab hold of. And that to me is what I love talking about, but I get to do it here locally. So I try and find those local stories of interest about people or things that sometimes human interest, sometimes features, and sometimes just telling stories about people that I find that's my favorite type of story to tell. And those are the stories that I remember. For instance, yesterday I covered a story on Bella the service dog and his owner, David Golden. It was a feature piece we did for Veterans Day. But you know, the piece, when I went to interview them, I found him on Twitter. I just saw the service handle, Bella service dog, and I'm like, oh, this is unique.
Oh, really?
And so I started following them, and then I got to know David, started talking to him more, and I was like, hey, I'd love to do a story about you guys. And so that sort of led to a story, and we shot it last week, and it aired yesterday. And you know, when you initiate stories like this, you go in with one aspect of thinking, okay, this is going to be a feature about David, about, you know, it's a Veterans Day, about his time as a Desert Storm veteran and what he's doing now with Bella, his Rottweiler, and how they're working to help other people and help motivate other soldiers who are coming back. But, you know, David suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, and, you know, he told me a lot of stats about that. 22 vets die a day by their own hand. You know, and it's awful. It's awful stats. So you learn so much about these little stories, and those are the stories that I remember. The Jimmy Fallon's, the more lighthearted ones. I don't remember that. That's my picture with him on my desk. I always remember that story. My picture with the Blue Angels. You know, but they all come together. You know, and it's great whether you're interviewing a superstar or you're flying Mach 1 with your hair on fire, or you know, you're covering you know, a local story about just somebody who's very special in your community. I mean, they're all the same.
Yeah.
The same element there. There's a focus there, and there's an enthusiasm there for what those people are doing. And I love trying to bring that out.
That's awesome. So you've been here, you said 14 years?
Yeah, 14. And in December, it'll be 14 years here at Channel 5.
Well, congratulations early.
Thank you.
And so you clearly have established some good friendships with the people that you work with. Who makes it the most fun every day?
Gosh, everybody's a different character here. And there's so many great personalities here. I can't pick out one person that I would say stands above all, because they all come together to really make it an exciting place to work. Shannon Cake, who I've anchored with probably the longest out of anyone, she's awesome and amazing. I think what makes it unique for us is I've learned so much from Shannon, not just as an anchor, because I've gotten to know so much, I've learned so much from her, but as a parent too. She's a parent. Yeah. And so I've learned, you know, I'll ask her on set during commercial breaks, hey, what'd you do with your kids when they were 2 years old? Like, you know, I mean, she gives me so much advice and great advice. And what's a unique story about Shannon, I sent my resume tape to her, and that's how I got my job.
Oh, no way.
She won't take the credit for it, but the credit really goes to Shannon, because I sent my tape to her because she went to Alabama too. Okay. And so I just, you know, sent her an email and said, hey, roll tide, I'm interested in the job, here's the tape. And she walked it into the news director's office, and, you know, a month or two later, I got a job.
That's awesome.
You know, obviously, you know,
you got to use every resource you have. Yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, that's another component. Not to get off track here,
go for it.
But
there's no track.
That's right. It's all fluid here. It's not so much, you know, what you know, it's who you know. It's networking, you know. And they told me that in college, you know, shake hands with as many people as you can, get to know so many people, because you never know who those people are influenced by. You never know what connections they have, and they can help you, and they can help you in your personal life or in your professional life too. So I've always tried to maintain that.
Do you think
I've found it's helped me out. So
absolutely. Do you think you'll ever stop learning?
No,
you ever can in this industry?
And I don't think you should stop learning in this industry. I mean, honestly, to be honest, the day you say, okay, I've learned everything, that's when you need to hang the helmet up and go find something else to do. Because this industry, we're going to be learning until we retire. And I hope I do, because you never reach your maximum. I mean, there's so many, the industry is changing so much. Too. Just in the 10 years I've been here, 14 years, excuse me, I've been here at Channel 5, the technology changes that we've gone through. all the changes with social media that we've had to learn, and that's only going to change. I look at my son who plays on my iPhone and goes through apps right now.
Great, mine too.
And I'm like, and
You're like, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, how does he do that?
Right.
Like, I mean, when I was his age, there's no way. And
yeah.
He's thumbing through all this, and I'm thinking, gosh, when he's 20, what technology are they going to see? Now, the technology that they see, I've got to know, and I've got to learn too. You and I need to learn. So this industry, we're going to be evolving and changing, and you know, and it's fun for my college. You know, getting back to Shannon, Michael Williams, who's a longtime veteran. He's such a mentor for me. He's great. Kelly Dunn, who's been here several decades. She's great to see these faces that have been here so long. My newest anchor, Ashley Hinson, she's awesome. I mean, we work with a great team at night, and I hope there's so many other people I could name, but we all are faced with the same challenge. We all have to stay ahead of the curve, because I mean, the curve is turning, and we've got to maintain all of that momentum. We've got to maintain all that technology and process it, or else,
And you guys are the big ship in the water. I mean, not for nothing, but South Florida's industry is huge, and you guys are a massive part of that.
Well, you have to be a part of the change, and if you don't embrace it and you don't try and learn as much as you can, I find you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And really, we have to be ahead of the curve. I mean, our viewers look to us as leaders on air and as a station, and we have to be able to give them what they want in a capacity and in a format that they're going to understand. And so if we don't understand it, they're not going to understand it. So a lot of the onus is on us, and the responsibility is on us to really stay ahead of the curve, to open ourselves up to all the new technology and the changes in the industry. Sometimes, and those who are in the industry will know what I'm saying here, but a lot of times consultants will see directional patterns and things that should change. The way we write things, the way we say things will change. So we have to adapt to all that as well in the newscast, because everything is so strategic to get those viewers to watch. And there are so many little details that our company pays thousands of dollars for to try and get you to watch us, because we have to stay ahead of the game. We don't want to lose you as a viewer. So there's so many things that people don't realize out there, what goes on behind the scenes. It's a newscast, 30 minutes, but there's so much that's a part of that. Not just in that 30 minutes, but what goes into a full day preparing for it, but what also goes into months of research, trying to make that newscast better, and trying to be the best that you can in that newscast, because we have competition all over.
Absolutely.
And great competition.
Is it cutthroat, or is it
I don't think it's
cooperative?
I don't per se, I don't think it's cutthroat. I mean, when I got here, I think there was some, I mean, you might have had a few days where you felt like it was cutthroat, but really and honestly, we have such great journalists that have been here so long in this market, and we're blessed to have that. And it's a mix of long-time journalists who have been here and new journalists that have come here, and I've found the cooperation has gotten a lot better over the years, and I'm speaking for myself. You could probably interview a few other reporters that might say, yeah, it is cutthroat. I don't find it to be cutthroat. I have a lot of friends at other stations, and a lot of other reporters are my friends as well. So,
well, I mean, it's even WPTV and WFLX
we're
partnered.
We're partners right now.
What was that like, that transition?
It actually was good for us, and I enjoyed it. It was something that I think we needed, and it was something that I welcomed, and I think it was important because it gave us a little more flexibility. It gave us a completely different audience, and the Fox show is completely different from NBC show, and we're able to sort of choreograph a different dance, if you will, into both newscasts. And the Fox gives us a chance to kind of roll up our sleeves and loosen up a little bit too, which is nice, and we need that. And we have a great new show called The Now right now, Shannon Cake.
I've seen it.
That's great, and that's a completely different hybrid that our company has put a lot of money into, and it's taken off great here. And Shannon's doing an amazing job. She's got a great team behind her as well. Speaking of team, a lot of people have worked hard on that. So getting the Fox on board and all these new shows, that's great for us. I mean, the more content we have, honestly, the better, because it gives us more flexibility than I think to really to work our magic, I should say, but really to carve out what we need to do every day. It gives us a platform, and it's a bigger platform for us. And the bigger the platform you have, the easier it's going to be for us to carve out our niche.
So, I promised you one final question.
Yeah. Everything's good up until this point.
I told you it's fine. Nothing to worry about. I just want to know which is better, your golf game or your basketball game?
Oh gosh. Wow, I thought you were coming at me with something way
No,
different. Okay.
no.
I'm going to say probably. The problem is I don't play a lot of pickup basketball.
Yeah.
I golf, I should say, and I am a horrible golfer. So I don't know how to answer this, to be honest with you. I love the sport of golf and I love basketball. I just don't play a lot of pickup basketball. So I probably have to say I'm better at golf, but I'm gonna probably be lying to you because I'm not really that good.
Right.
So I love to play golf. I love golfing every day when I can. I don't golf every day, but if I could, I would love to. But I don't have the time really to get out to devote to golf like I should. And golf, as golfers know, is it's a sport that you have to devote a lot of
Hours,
time to,
yeah.
and you have to play to get better. And
Right.
if you don't, it's just going to be a very frustrating game, which pretty much is the way it goes with me. But I enjoy it. You know, you can't take it seriously, and I think if I took my golf game seriously, I would be throwing clubs in the water every day because it would be ridiculous. And it's fun to get out there with your friends and your pals and shoot around. And I'll always, every time I golf, I should say this. Every time I golf, I always hit one shot that's solid and it's perfect and it's awesome. And it may be the one shot out of a 5-hour round
Right.
I hit, but it's the one I remember.
That's the one you talk about.
It's the one I talk about. It's the one that gets me back out on the golf course the next time. So there you have it.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. And thank you, Jamie, for sharing some insight and for coming in to visit us. I appreciate that. And I wish you the best with your company and everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Can I ask you to sign off the podcast? And all it is just say, this is Jay Cashmere with Curve the Cube.
This is Jay Cashmere with Curve the Cube.
Yay! High five.
High five.
Awesome.
Thank
You're
you.
great. Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
You have successfully curved the cube.